Good morning, second brainers. Scott Nevis here with another video about where, not what, and using Obsidian to kind of build your own digital second brain. Today I want to get a little more technical. I gave you a use case last time we talked about how I used Obsidian to create a product, and it revolved around this diagram, the engineering problem solving process. Well, I use a lot of plugins to enhance Obsidian. In fact, you're looking at one of them. It's called Excalidraw. And so what I'm going to do is today I'm going to give you a tour of how I enhance Obsidian with some really powerful plugins. So here's how it begins. Down in the corner of Obsidian on your desktop, there's a little gear. When you hit the gear, it pops up and you see this there are some core plugins and bookmarks, canvas, daily notes. I'll do a whole video on daily notes. I've already got some things to talk about daily notes. But let's talk about community plugins. So Obsidian has a very robust community of developers that support this application. And there are just 1,875 little pieces of software people have written to improve Obsidian that do all kinds of cool things. I'm going to show you the ones that I use. So if you click on community plugins, you'll get a list of which ones are of what's installed. Not all of mine are active, but it's a pretty substantial list. Here's the big ones, the heavy hitters. I'm going to go down the left side and just talk about them really quickly. And I'll show you an example of what they look like when I use them as I talk about them. So I do a lot of writing, a big fan of better word count. That allows me to select a block of text and see how many words are in it. I get a lot of use out of that. The calendar plugin, man, this thing is super valuable for me. Coupled with the daily note, what it allows me to do is in the right-hand panel, one of the tabs is this awesome calendar. So I can click on any day and jump directly to it, but it also gives me weekly notes. And that's where I tend to aggregate all of my tasks and the things that I'm working on. And when I need a new note, I can literally click on a day in the future that doesn't exist and say, hey, you don't have a daily note there yet. Do you want to make one? I'm like, yeah, I do. And it'll go ahead and create it for me. I can leave a note to my future self on that day. So when I open Obsidian and it automatically opens today's note, there's that note. Super cool. Love the calendar plugin. So let's take a look at what's next. Charts allows you to create graphs and charts. Dataview. This is the database engine that lets you treat your note base like it is a database. And here's kind of a fun example. The author, Adam Grant. A big fan of his books, so I have an author card. And this is a good example of why, for me, this is valuable. Dataview creates this little chart that gives me my rating of his books. I wasn't as big a fan of originals as I was Think Again or Give and Take. But also look, are all the link mentions. Anytime in a note, anywhere I mention Adam Grant's name, you could see I refer to him a lot, and I quote him a lot in my writing, my books. Super influential guy, but this is an example of how one note can link to lots of other things, and Dataview gives me a graph of the books I've read that are in my library that have highlights from him. So Dataview can do lots of other cool things, but pretty powerful. Excalidraw, that's the one you were just seeing. That is the tool I used to create the engineering problem solving. There we go. Gotcha. Super powerful tool. Awesome graphical tool that is on par with Visio, on par with OmniGraffle, and it's free. It is an amazing, powerful plugin, and I use this a ton to create my own diagrams, charts. I just love the way it works. I even have it set up that I've created my own cartoon characters in a library that I use to create my own graphics when I'm creating presentations, because you can save the image as a PNG or a JPEG file and use it elsewhere. Just can't say enough good things about Excalidraw. I use the language checker LanguageTool. It's an open source one. I like it a lot better than some of the other tools that are on the market that cost a lot more. And it runs inside of Obsidian for me. Love that. Natural language dates allows me to insert a date link. I use this all the time to link a note back to a daily note because my daily notes are saved in year, month, day format. So all I have to do is put double brackets around it and boom, a note can specifically link to a daily note, which I use a lot of. Note refactor, pretty straightforward. Select a bunch of text and say make a new note out of this text. Really works with my daily note. Numerals creates sort of a spreadsheet or like a math calculator inside, and so does Solve inside of Obsidian. Really love that. QuickAdd, picked this up from a buddy of mine, Corbin Glowacki, who I hope to interview one day coming up. He's a big user of Obsidian. What this does is it's a different kind of macro. Is you can see there's people's names here. I can hit a shortcut key. It'll pop up a dialog box. I'm like, remember to talk to Clarissa about something with Game Truck. And then it will take that note and put it in her people card. So when I have a one-on-one with Clarissa, all the things that pop into my head are ready to go. It'll automatically make that list for me. And boy, that is just super helpful. Readwise Official. This is the plugin that connects my Kindle library and highlights and imports them directly into Obsidian. Super powerful. And ShareNote. Love this one. If you want to write up a note for somebody and then create a web link for it that you send them, this is the one. Love this thing. It is awesome. Tasks. This is the tool I use to manage my to-dos and tasks. I'll do a whole video on my task taking system, but the super powerful one, this is the one that's really, really technical, is Templater. There is a built-in plugin called Templates and a really powerful one called Templater. Eventually I should convert everything all over, but this happens organically. And I've made a lot of templates before I got into using, Templater. And here's an example of a simple template. It uses, a database, the Dataview query. So if I want to say a bunch of gold card links, boom, plug it in, away you go. But here's what Templater does that's so powerful. What Templater does, let's see if we can find a good one here. Say book alias. Okay. Well, that one's pretty straightforward. Let me pick something more complicated like next note in chain. That's one of the ones I use all the time. And this is a, there it is. Okay. Here's what Templater allows you to do. Run JavaScript inside of Obsidian. And so if you could pick up the code or get ChatGPT to write it for you or ask me, I'll give you my templates. I can grab information about the file, format it specifically. And so what this thing does is I can write out a little bit of text and then select it and say, make a new note using this name. And it will create the new note and backlink to the previous note and set everything up for me so that it's like adding a new train car onto my thought train, pre-formatted, everything's the way I want it. All I have to do is just start typing my overview and add my contents. And very similar with home notes, a little bit of JavaScript in there lets me set up all of my notes. So if I'm starting a new project or I'm starting a new area, it does a little bit of this, does some manipulations, and bang, I've got everything I need. It is magic. It really helps me automate a lot of what I do. And I think a good example, new project I'm working on right now. Oh, we did not want that. Nothing like accidentally resizing your entire window. So nothing is visible. Yes, I'm human and good enough. Here's an example of, I've started working on this thing about heart rolls, and how to go about it. So when I'm adding a new line into my list, it could be example new note. Just grab the text, and then when I fire up next note in chain, it'll go ahead, create it, and voila, everything I need is already formatted. when it was created, when it was last updated, my name's in there. It's got an alias. It's added a tag for me. It's got a link back to the original file. And it's all done. So I can just like, boom, and I've got it. I don't have to go type all that stuff by hand. And that's how I keep extending and working on different ideas. So when I'm working with my engineering problem solving process, that is, and I've got a new idea, that becomes, boy, I really extended that, didn't I? I got a very wide screen. There we go. Back to normal. This allows me to quickly extend ideas as I do more research, or we test something and we learn something and we come back and we try again. I could just keep adding on to that sort of thought chain. Now, that gives you a quick example or idea of some of the many plugins I use to enhance Obsidian to be super powerful. And quick recap here. The ones I recommend you want to play with are Excalidraw. That's amazing. Templater, I think that's absolutely the bomb. Calendar, those are probably my top 3. The notes that I use every day. Every day those get used all the time. Dataview is another super powerful one. But if you're curious, you want to know what people are really using, you can hit browse and you can sort by most downloaded. And once you have most downloaded, this top list is going to give you an idea of what people are using and what people get the most value from. And it's a pretty powerful tool, especially when you factor in all the plugins. And it pays every now and then to do what I'm doing now, is check for updates. And if it needs to be updated, you go ahead and hit update all, and it will go through and it will make sure that your plugins get updated to the most current version automatically. And that ends up being, how I use plugins to enhance Obsidian and my second brain.